Do it.
Do it.
And we're live. Hey guys, hey folks, how you doing? It's V, the Guerrilla Economist, coming to you, and we are live with none other than the Rogue Coin Show. We got Crypto Cowboy, we got Crypto Z, and we have the Frank.
The Frank.
The Frank. He is the Frank.
One and only.
And we're coming to you live. We've got so many things to talk about. What? Exactly. Hey, Cowboy, if you get a chance, man, why don't you do your screen share like you usually do?
Yeah, I did it, but I didn't do it right, apparently. Let's redo it.
All right, go back and go hit that option and hit application, and then this way you can show it.
Okay, I just hit the share button. How are we doing?
Perfect. It's there. All right, so guys, there's so many things going on. What is the hot topic of the day? First of all, anything on the weekend that you guys want to discuss? Any price moves? Anything that's looking good? Go ahead, guys. It's all yours.
Well, Bitcoin, I think, has, as usual, it's got the spotlight. I think the big question is are we going to see blood or are we going to see a nice big jump? And at this point, I'm kind of 50-50. I think the worst is over. I think as we said last week, I think the SEC was the watershed. So, Bitcoin has been kind of poking around that 9,000 mark. It actually touched it a few days ago, and then it went down. It dipped just below about 8,000. And I actually made a nice margin trade on that. That was fun. And then it's kind of headed back up towards that 9,000. But I think that 9,000 is sort of our resistance right now. So as soon as we break that 9, I think we're going to be seeing a nice rise. Z, does your TA kind of see the same thing?
Yeah, so I do see the same thing. On the 1 hour right now, I'm taking a look at my charts. And Bitcoin actually looks great. If for the first time since the 4th, which is essentially 8 days ago, Bitcoin is really finally bullish. You can always determine a coin, whether a coin is bullish or not, based on whether just simply the fact that it's above the cloud. So if you're just going from a pure standpoint, a TA standpoint, anytime a coin is above the cloud, it's considered bullish. End of story. Anytime below, it's bearish. Correct. And that's something that we're gonna go in depth with inside of the Trading Academy. But yes, this is a prime example of Bitcoin finally being bullish after a long time. The lows are becoming less low, and the highs are becoming, more high, I guess you would say. So,
what cloud are you talking about? You talking about the Ichimoku cloud?
Yeah, the Ichimoku cloud, correct. That red and green cloud right there. Anytime that a coin is above that, it is on pen and paper, it is considered bullish.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if the viewers are seeing that. V, can you make sure you click on Cowboy's screen?
Yeah, it is.
It is? Okay, sorry. It wasn't on my screen, sorry. So okay, so they were seeing the cloud. I was like,
yeah, so right now it's treading on the top of the cloud finally. It entered into the cloud. Okay. It entered into the cloud on the 7th. As you can see right there, it entered into the cloud on January 7th, and it's been staying above the cloud, and it's been consistently staying above the cloud, which is a very, very good sign. And more of the bullish indicators are starting to show up. You're not getting so many bearish indicators like head and shoulders. Not really getting those anymore. Now it's mainly reverse bottoms and so forth. So it's looking better and better for Bitcoin. As Cowboy said, I think the SEC regulation meeting was essentially the watershed that sort of broke it out.
Yeah, see, what I'm drawing for everybody right now is a bit of a channel that Bitcoin is forming. So you have what appears to be a resistance right around like 9,000 right here. So it hasn't quite gotten there yet. So really, if you want to look at the resistance that way, it seems to be like being rejected off of 88.30 or so. But the prior resistance here back on the 10th was actually up right at like 9,100.
Yeah, so, and that's perfect. I'm actually looking at the same exact thing on my side, and that's spot on.
So and as it's forming this upward channel, what we kind of look for among many things are it to break the channel. And so if this actually was to be extrapolated, if this were to be extrapolated, you could possibly break right here. And in a sense, this right here is a double resistance where that arrow is pointing. So you have the resistance of about 9,000, which also 9,000 is a psychological barrier, as well as what seems to be a TA resistance. I might have to kind of look back to see if that really applies. But
It is.
So, and then if it breaks that, that's almost like a double resistance. And it seems that, I mean, if this chart does follow what I've done, and it might be kind of fun to watch this, but we might see a break. What's at the bottom there on 2:12 at midnight? So midnight PST time. If this thing breaks loose, then it's kind of fun when your charts all line up like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but hey,
this would be a textbook.
Are you on like the 15-minute? What is this? I'm trying to get mine to look like yours.
This is the 1 hour chart.
This is the 1 hour.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So, and like for the new viewers, I know we kind of addressed this before, but every single one of those red and green bars represents 1 hour of movement.
Right.
So that's what the 1 hour chart means. And then if you look on the bottom, we do see some bullish indicator here with the stochastic RSI on the bottom here where my mouse is. Mm-hmm. Once these lines, some think the blue, some think I like the red. The red, kind of the longer average. Once that passes about this 50% mark in this graph, it's actually called an oscillator, then you actually could see some nice rise up. But the only concern I have is right here on the relative strength indicator. We are still sort of in technically overbought territory, which means that when it's up high here and when it approaches this line, it's tough to get momentum. It's a lot easier to get momentum when you're down here. Mm-hmm. As in this example, you can see the RSI came down, bottomed here, and then you see it kind of bottomed down here a little bit, and then it started going up. So, I mean, this is, we're starting to get off in the weeds on TA, but long story short, both of us think that Bitcoin is bearish and probably not going to see its lows again like it did, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's the point. It's we're moving into it. Being
absolutely
stronger and heading up. That's great. That's awesome.
Absolutely. I don't think you'll see the fives, hopefully forever. Let's hope on that.
Yeah, and you mean the $5,000 range?
Yes, exactly. The $5,000. I think it dipped at one point. It dipped down to 5,008, and I think that was sort of like the lows of the low.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Hey, I got one, and I didn't bring this up before we got on, but there was some news about I don't know if anybody else was hearing about this. Something to do with Coinbase and like retail payments that they have opened up for business again. Because I know for a while they had sort of shut down their part of their service where they would help you take payments, but it seems like they've come out with some new and improved product or something like that. Do you guys know anything about that or?
Yeah, so Coinbase had to. They had to because they have guys clawing at their feet. There's a few coins out there that are extremely sort of trying to get Coinbase's position that are based on blockchain cryptocurrencies. One of them being Ethos, which was rebranded from Bitcoins, and then there's another one called Bread that actually has Charlie Lee, the founder of Litecoin, as an advisor.
Nice.
And these are coins that are, trying to take over Coinbase's position. They're looking to, implement both fiat gateway as well as a multi-sig wallet and a way for businesses to sort of take payment. Mm-hmm. So I think Coinbase always had it. They just needed to kind of refine it a little bit better, and they're kind of desperate on time right now where they had to release it.
Yeah, well, I mean, they actually. Because I was looking into it for some of the stuff we were doing, they actually were not allowing companies to sign up for it anymore. It was like
correct.
They had shut down access to it, and so over the weekend I started seeing all these little headlines about them opening up for accepting payment again, which would be great. So.
Yeah, this is where I look at companies like Coinbase and I say, welcome to the Wild West, and this is reality now. Mm-hmm. Their fiat gateways are not that hard to figure out. Mm-hmm. Cryptos and the technology of cryptocurrency will always move faster than the government. Mm-hmm. So essentially, you have Coinbase being arm twisted by the government to not do this and not do that. Well, it's really not that difficult to get a fiat purchase in a way where you don't have to use Coinbase. So Coinbase is going to have to, shape up.
Yeah, it's like I think of Coinbase and in a certain sense, I'm very appreciative of what they've done. In another sense, it's like I worry about them because it's like they're so big that they have to constantly be thinking about regulation and what the government's going to do to them. And in the meantime, you can have all of these light, nimble, under the radar companies come up and just do so many things so much better than they've been doing it. You know,
Correct.
they've got to just be constantly looking over their shoulders. So it's not an easy place to be.
Well,
No, it's not, and Coinbase is really like, I mean, BQX or sorry, Ethos and Bread, I don't believe are based in the United States, so they don't have to worry about those regulations.
They don't have to worry about all the freedom, right?
Correct. Exactly.
You know, the only reason that they kick Americans out of these crypto exchanges is because they hate us for our freedoms, guys.
It's of all the freedom.
All the freedom.
You gotta ban Americans. They're too free.
We're too free. They hate us for our freedoms, and that's why, you know.
And, we got on that joke. We got on that joke because we were talking about EOS Finex, and that's not a joke. That's actually what they're calling a new product. Bitfinex. And I sent this article. It's in our chat, our private chat for you guys. Announcing EOS Finex. This is from Bitfinex. Bitfinex to build high-performance decentralized exchange on the EOS.io platform. Huge. Which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So today we are proud to announce EOS Finex, the first high-performance decentralized exchange to be built on EOS.io technology. I think there's two things that spike our interest. One is investment or trading analysis on EOS, but also, I mean, this could be pretty cool. And the joke I was referencing is Bitfinex recently kicked all of us out. They kicked all the Americans out again because of our freedom, and they didn't want to be subject to U.S. law, and so they stopped serving Americans. But this is interesting because you got Bitfinex, which had, in my opinion, at least in my experience, a very high quality exchange, and now they're combining with a company that has Dan Larimer is involved with it. It promises to be a really powerful exchange, and they're saying decentralized. So I'm assuming, it's more like a really and you guys correct me if I'm reading too much into this, but when I hear decentralized built off of EOS, what I hear is a sort of Ether Delta like model, except it'll work and you'll like using it. Right, and I didn't even say that to be funny.
yeah. So EOS is supposed to be quote unquote the Ethereum killer, right? So EOS, I forgot what the transaction speed is on EOS, but the transaction speed on EOS is significantly higher than Ethereum. That's what EOS touts it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It is for now. The thing about it,
correct.
Exactly. A lot of people they don't. I think it's very dangerous to underestimate Vitalik. I used to just sit there when I was working and whatever, and I have, driving home, I'd listen to Vitalik talk. And there's a couple things that he does well, besides obviously building Ethereum and all that. He doesn't really he doesn't let people know exactly what he's going to do. And there's a saying in Russian, it's Atisha Yiddish Dalsha Budish, and forgive me if I butchered that, but it means move quietly and you will go far. And so, I'm betting on Vitalik and, everything he's got, to where he's just going to come up with a solution, and he's going to take his time building it, and he's going to make sure that his competition doesn't have enough time to take off before he comes out with Casper. And Casper is what we're kind of banking on to move up the speed of
it's upgrade to Ethereum. Basically.
Yeah, it's gonna be Casper, and then Vitalik is an advisor to
Layman. What is Casper? Is that an upgrade to their network, or
he's a friendly ghost?
It's essentially Lightning to Ethereum's what's it called, blockchain. So it's going to speed things up drastically. And like I said, Kyber is a coin that's already been out. It has Vitalik as an advisor, so they have Vitalik's full support. Vitalik only advises 4 coins, and Kyber is his latest baby. And essentially Kyber is a decentralized exchange.
Interesting.
So,
okay, wow.
So this was a coin that was launched last year. They had no updates at all. It was one of the hottest ICOs that came on the market. It instantly sold out. It's going to do big things, I believe, in Q3 is my idea.
So in other words, you guys aren't as excited about things like EOS and Cardano and
You know what? I say this time and time again. I don't understand how EOS and Cardano are in the top 10, and Cardano is even in the top 5. This is a coin that has no product. you know, or it has a prototype product. It has no dApps built on it, and it just has a fancy white paper and a fancy name on it. And
it was one of the original
coin.
One of the original founders of Ethereum broke off, and Cardano, just for people who are listening, it's currently number 5. It's actually above Litecoin.
Yeah, which is absurd.
How dare you?
Absurd. It's above Litecoin and Neo, which actually has a ton of coins built on it now. Neo is actually finally a contender for this blockchain platform, you know, base. And, you know, I just don't understand it. I just don't understand.
And it's billed as an Ethereum killer. And I've heard, I don't know if it was Vitalik who said this. I think it was, that he essentially said Ethereum 2.0 is the Ethereum killer.
Yeah,
what he's coming out with. And I've been in the past. I mean, I've been very excited about EOS. I really like Dan Larimer. I like the way he thinks. I think he's a really bright guy. But yeah, maybe it's a little bit premature to think that anything is going to kill Ethereum.
It's just I just don't understand all these guys that tout themselves as Ethereum killers. Like, if you look at their circulating supply of coins, they all jumble. So Ethereum has a 97.5 million circulating coins in circulation. Neo's at 65 million, so it's relatively the same. Then you've got EOS at 665 million.
Yeah.
And then you have Cardano at 25.9 billion. So it's like, I mean, I don't understand how you can call it an Ethereum killer when it's not even in the same supply holding.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We started this discussion a little bit earlier, and you know, I hope we can make this really clear for the listener. When we're talking about circulating supply, you know, one of the things that as soon as you get into Bitcoin, and any noob to Bitcoin finds out there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoins. And that's one of the things that's so exciting about Bitcoin. It's not like the dollar where you create more of them every time you buy a TV or a hamburger. It's a fixed supply. It has to be mined. Right. And so one of the things that makes it so exciting is this limited supply. It creates scarcity. It helps push the price up. As more people use it, the more valuable it becomes because of the network effect. And what we were saying earlier is you have some of these coins that come out, and it seems like people just go, oh, cool, a really reputable coin that's only 37 cents. I'll get a bunch of those. And what they fail to realize is, yeah, it's only 37 cents, but that is actually a high price when you realize how many of them there are out there. So whereas, for example, Bitcoin has currently a little over just under 17 million coins in circulation. Like you said, Cardano is close to 26 billion in circulation. So at 37 cents, it creates this $9 billion+ market cap. Even though the tokens themselves, the coins themselves are very low price, there's already a ton of money in it, and there's no product yet.
Well, you gotta be careful when you talk about market capitalization, because, you know, what do you do in the market cap? A market capitalization is the total supply of coins, and it's done at the very last price, right? So what if you closed on a high? Your market cap looks really big. Yeah. I think that market cap is something that should be looked at with a grain of salt. And on top of that, how many of those coins that exist are in circulating supply? You know, that actually can make a big difference as well. If you have a small circulating supply versus a total supply of coins, you are going to see, it's just going to have a different dynamic on the market. You know, so, but again, and that's something that, you know, for our new viewers, this is really, really important stuff, because, you know, the market cap actually and the supply and all that was something that I learned a little bit late in the game. You know, I was more focusing on like the coin. I was focusing on financial coins. I was kind of narrow, laser beamed into that. And Z, as my business partner, was like, dude, no, don't do that. You know, buy this one. It's got and so I had to learn the whole thing. And I kind of, at this point, want to kind of rely on Z to explain some of that to us here.
Yeah. So as I was saying before to Cowboy, like back in the day, you know, the max supply versus the total supply versus the circulating supply is something that I suggest every single trader understands. Just to give you guys a brief cap without going too in depth, and we will be going in depth with this inside the trading school. Max supply is essentially the amount of tokens or amount of coins that company is going to be produced. Now, the reason why max supply is also very important is because a lot of these coins, especially the new coins, they put on ice a ton of coins in backup. These coins are given to the founding members. These coins are given to the close team, and these coins are locked up for certain periods of time. So just because there is a circling supply of, let's just say, I'm looking at Cardano right here. Let's just say Cardano right now has a $25.9 billion circling supply, but there's a $45 billion max supply. This means that somewhere down the road, most likely Cardano is going to be releasing those coins. That's going to liquidate, that's going to essentially expand the price of Cardano. It's going to essentially give inflation, I would say, right? Correct, guys?
Yeah, it'll actually contract the price. It'll expand
exactly. It will expand the price out, which is obviously not a good thing. And this is what happened with Neo. If you guys didn't realize with Neo, essentially, I think about a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, Neo's team was finally allowed to sell their Neo. Now, the speculation was that Neo, no, everybody loves Neo, everybody's not going to sell, et cetera, et cetera. That wasn't the case. A ton of Neo was sold on the market. People wanted to pay their bills. Neo all of a sudden got liquidated, and that caused the price to essentially sink for a little bit of time. And that was the whole reason why Neo was kind of stuck in a rut for a while, was because of that. So that's max supply. Then you have total supply versus circulating supply. Total supply versus circulating supply is somewhat similar. Total supply typically means that the coins that are the difference in coins between total and circulating are in a small lockup. This lockup is typically used for masternodes, it's typically used for mining, and this is just sort of like a subset in which it doesn't belong to any one individual person. It's not actually released. It's something that token holders can go ahead and grab most of the time. And then finally, circulating supply, which I believe is the most important thing. To get your market cap, you take your circulating supply, you times it by your price, and that will give you your market cap. And just as I spoke with Cowboy before, it's very, very important to note that the circulating supply is what matters in a coin when you're looking at it from a trading side.
From trading point of view, yeah.
Trading point of view, that was the whole premise of why everybody was so bullish on Ripple, was that everybody heard the rumor that Ripple was going to be listed on Coinbase. The financial psychological section of that was that, the average person is not going to know about market cap. They're going to see that Ripple is now on Coinbase. It's going for $1, and everybody's going to buy Ripple because it's easily available on Coinbase and it's so cheap. Everybody's like, oh my God, this is the next Litecoin. This is the next Bitcoin, but they don't realize that Ripple's already top 3 with a massive market cap.
Yeah, to put it really simple, Ripple at $1 is a lot like Litecoin at $300.
Right. Correct.
Each token is valued very high at that price. When you think about how many of them there are, and maybe this, I don't know, maybe this analogy will work, maybe it's not, but it's like a little kid saying, "Hey, I've got 100 pennies. This is way better than your 6 quarters."
It's perfect.
It's pretty good. That worked out, actually, right?
Yeah.
Now, with that said, by the way, anybody can look up the three supply numbers. Just go to coinmarketcap.com. I've tried to say this in the crypto school, the cryptoschool.io, a million times, that so much of the info, someone will say, "Hey, where is such and such traded?" Coinmarketcap.com is your friend. Like we always say, Google is your friend. Coinmarketcap.com. There's so much info there. And for most coins, it'll tell you the circulating supply. It'll tell you the total supply. It'll tell you the what was the other one?
The max supply.
The max supply. So for Cardano has 45 45 billion max supply, 31 billion total, and 25 billion circulating. But then there's another thing to take into consideration, and that is, what the founders of the company are saying, what the company itself is saying with regard to how they're going to treat it. So it's not just a matter of looking at, for example, one that you'll see a huge discrepancy, one that everybody likes to talk about, is Veritasium. There's 100 million Veri in total supply, but there's only 2 million in circulating supply.
Correct.
So
yeah,
it's really, what is Reggie going to be doing with those tokens?
That's the question.
That's the big question. And see, as you can see right here, I think Nick's got Cowboy. Has Ripple listed up right now. Yeah, Nick the Cow has Ripple listed up, and this is what is so concerning about Ripple. And I keep telling people about it, like, don't be very careful about it, because Ripple right now has 39 billion tokens in circulating supply, but it's got, it's got 100 billion tokens in max supply and 99.992 billion total supply.
$100 billion.
Exactly. So, less than half of the tokens are currently even out there right now. Like, what is going to happen when those tokens hit the market?
Well, actually, let's think about it mathematically. What's going to happen, because right now the circulating supply is about like 40%. So if you actually were to introduce the other 60% all at once, which is very unlikely, but if you did, you're looking at a devaluation of what you would think is 60%. However, what really happens is you get, what's the opposite of FOMO? You get essentially like FUD. It's just all of a sudden everything's gonna liquidate and Ripple just dies. And I really, really hope Ripple dies. It's just a piece of crud. It's a banker's coin. I think Bix has it right in that they're just gonna use Ripple to shore up the balance sheets on all the banks every quarter, and that's why I just bought in.
Buy it in the quarter, dump it right before when they dump it. That's it.
Why not make some money on it?
Make some money. Be pragmatic.
I'm sorry to ask this. Can you guys, Z? Can you talk to me like I'm 8 years old for a second? With the total versus circulating. Okay. I understand what max supply is. I understand what circulating supply. What is implied? I know you already said this, but I just need to hear it again.
Okay.
What is implied by total supply?
So total supply, a lot of times, and it's within each individual coin's white paper. It varies obviously per coin. The company disperses coins at certain benchmarks in its future. Now, like I said, it varies per coin. So, for example, I think with Neo, the core team members were allowed to sell their coins. So their total supply was released into the circulating supply after 2 years, or I believe a year or 2 years, in which those tokens were allocated to the team members, and then those team members could then do whatever they wanted with those tokens.
So in most cases, with a little bit of research, you can see what the schedule is and what to expect and trade accordingly.
Correct, exactly. You can see when exactly they dispersing the coins and so forth.
What would be awesome? What would be awesome is if there was a place people could join where like people were on top of these things and they would get like tips on how to trade certain things. I don't know, just spitballing.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
The cryptoschool.io. Yeah, we haven't done a commercial. Let's have a commercial break. Frank will do it. The cryptoschool.io, for those of you who didn't hear, we unleashed our new, and we've got it. We all talk about this very sloppy. We got to be careful here. We have actually 3 different products, really easy to figure it out when you go to the cryptoschool.io. We've got the Crypto School, which is our ever-growing library of videos about how to get started with crypto. We go to the very beginning. We go to like, here's Coinbase. This is where Bitcoin is bought. Like we start very, very early, but from there we get to how to trade on Ether Delta. We talk about stuff. And now we're adding to that, just as part of your membership. There's no separate trading school per se. As part of your membership, we're going to be adding, with Crypto Z's help and Crypto Cowboy's help, we've already started to do that, as a matter of fact. In fact, why don't you click on a video series there, Nick? Top second tab on the top. Second to the we've already started adding our trading basics series, and Crypto Cowboy and I and Z are going to be adding to that as we go. So we got our core curriculum, we got our trading basics. So that's the Crypto School, $297. Well worth your hard-earned fiat. Okay, throw a little fiat at it so you can get into crypto. I've had people tell me, someone saying like, oh man, I always wanted to buy some coin that Bix was talking about, but it was only on Ether Delta, and I was scared, and so I finally plunked down the money, and within a couple hours of watching your videos, I'm on Ether Delta. I've got a bunch of this coin and that coin, and they're really psyched. So that's what that's about. Okay, all of our teaching content is on the Crypto School. Now, if you would, Cowboy, click on Watch Us Trade. We have a subscription service where you can watch Crypto Cowboy and Crypto Z trade. And what we mean by watch is they post all of the trades they're going to make. Short-term posts, short-term trades, medium-term trades, long-term trades. And we have a Slack group. And so you can join that for a monthly fee. And right now it's only $149.97. That's going up in the future very soon. So get in there, get that introductory pricing for a little while. It's going to be well worth it. But anyway, back to our scheduled program.
Well, let me see. What else do we want to talk about, guys? I'm looking at Bitcoin here. Just a quick, diversion while we're see here. Did you have something, Frank, specific you wanted to?
I have one or two things to throw at you, but go ahead with Bitcoin.
I'm looking at it, and even I see like a short-term sort of a possible channel down. Possible. I don't know yet, guys.
Okay.
Everything, of course, is in flux, right? So I think. Yeah. I think we might just see it kind of travel towards the bottom of this channel before it bounces back up to the top of the channel.
Yeah.
So for those people who are doing, things like margin trading and short-term stuff, that's just one thing to kind of pay attention to. But that's all I had for you.
All right, very cool. So I don't think we ever discussed this, maybe because we just didn't want to touch it, but there was a lot of, I hope you guys don't mind me talking about this, there's a lot of quote unquote, and I'm not sure I like to use the word FUD around this because I feel like FUD is a little bit dismissive, which it stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. FUD applies to a lot of crypto news we hear. Like I was joking, my mom declared crypto is banned, and so that's FUD, right? But there was what is being called FUD surrounding PPT. And I think I would go in the middle and say concern, right? Concerns about where it was going, and we saw a fairly significant price dip last week, fluctuating, I don't know, about $10. And PPT is something all of us have been in or are in at the moment. So, you guys have any quick thoughts about what was going on with that? And basically, there was concern over a few things. One was, there's this ongoing issue of release dates kind of getting, something's coming out tomorrow and it just doesn't come out. So just sort of the top of the company being unreliable. But then also very serious concerns about the criminal past of one of the founders.
Well, I did have a conversation with their CTO this morning. And what I'm trying to find out is some very specific info with regard to their programming. With the criminal past, the way that I'm looking at it, and Z, I think Z and I are kind of on the same page. If you take a look at some of your biggest bankers, some of your biggest business people all over the world, a ton of them have done far worse things than 460 pounds of what could be considered wire fraud. This is in the whole scheme of things, I consider it to be minor. Look,
460 pounds, that's it?
460,000 pounds, forgive me.
1,000 pounds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, they busted him. He was trying to buy a sandwich for free. I don't know.
But he did. There was a real crime. He did real time, and it was certainly something he wasn't. People were kind of poking him about it for a while, and he was acting like it was no big deal. And then all of a sudden, he comes out and says, "Oh yeah, I went to jail for this, not that."
Yeah. See, well,
so, I mean, that happened out in public. I'm not. You're not. Talking out of turn. That happened out in public, and that that said, of course, our real question is, how's the company being run? How's the code? But I think it's a little harsh to just call it FUD. It's certainly raised an eyebrow.
Well, yeah. If you look at it this way, I mean, he admitted to the legal issue, right? So we can look at it however we want to. I think that moving forward, the thing to take a look at is really the code. Right. And we were told that the repository. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. What is GitHub? Okay, so this is where all the programmers essentially put all their work, and a lot of it is publicly viewable. So I've got a couple of guys that I know a lot through Z's network, and some of the guys I know on the side as well, who are actually coders. And so I had them take a look at GitHub even before they opened it up. And a lot of guys are saying that the code looks good. One of the guys' comments, who actually is pretty talented, his comment was that he says, if this is BS code, it is really good BS code. That's what he said. And Cliff High, I don't know.
I was going to say, there's another guy who is good. Another guy we might have heard of.
Yeah, I sent a message to Cliff High, thinking I would never hear back, but I tweeted him. I used certain words that I figured would gather his attention, since he's like a linguistics guy.
You used his own system against him. I did. Words. That's so funny.
Like if you guys have ever seen Blade Runner, when the one guy wanted to meet his maker, the robot, he had to like use his language and use the chess game to finally make it up the elevator. Like that's what I did, right? And so. He's
wow.
Night.
So what did Cliff say? That's so funny.
Cliff said basically the same kind of thing. He said he's seen all the code all the way through up the end of last year. So all the way through December. This was about a week ago. He actually responded. He said the code is good. He said that his data doesn't really address FUD. And then he tweeted a couple days later that all the FUD and everything in the past is not really something that his data like is able to touch. His data only looks at what's going to happen in the future. He said that he is confident. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I don't know, flip a coin at this point. So I'm kind of waiting until I have more information to get back in. That's my stance.
Yeah, he said this was 3 days ago on Twitter. Ack. Yes. Had to do the ack, right? I'm assuming that's the little bird going, right? That's right. Is that that's what I always took the ack to be.
Even on emails to me, he does ack.
That is so funny. Yes, have heard about I am Stephen Nico. That's the PPT guy. His past conviction. No, my data process does not pick up such history. It's all about the future. Data picked up on BitPopulous. That's their Twitter account. Up a BitPopulous success as first mover in the factoring space. Success will not care about Steve's past. So that's Cliff's take on it. I'm sure that's comforted a lot of people. So all right, cool. Well, interesting, and so we'll see what happens with the short-term price action. But and they also likely in response to some of this pressure, very quickly said, "Okay, the beta's coming out." Right? So they did in fact release their public beta for people to mess around with, right?
I don't know.
1.0. So they released like a beta light version in which there's no real content. So I like Populous. I obviously I trust Cliff. I trust Bix and those guys. And I trust Cowboy. He's the first person who told me about Populous. So I completely trust his word on that. And my biggest issue with Populous is that unlike other teams, unlike other big teams, because now at one point Populous was top 20. It was a top 20 coin. When you're in that space, when you're now a top 20 coin, when you have large money looking at you, you have the community looking at you, you can no longer sort of act the way they've been acting. Right. And the way they've been acting is they have no transparency in anything that they do. No one knows who the development team of Populous is. Still today. I mean, all these other coins, even these ICOs that are so new, you know who the guys are in. You know the top 10 guys. You know who their main developers are. It's clear as day. But with Populous,
actually, somebody knows something.
Somebody knows something, but it's not. It's just not clear. I mean, if they should be having a team, especially a project like Populous, where it's in a top 10 or top 20 now. It should have a solid office. It should have a solid team. There should be some sort of transparency there.
Expect more, yeah.
Expect more out of it. Act like a big boy. If you're gonna play with the big boys, act like a big boy. And that's my biggest issue with Nico per se. I feel like Nico, there is one thing, just like Vitalik, where Vitalik keeps to himself. And he addresses certain things here and there, but the way Nico has been addressing stuff is extremely unprofessional. And I feel like there needs to just be more transparency. And that's where all this FUD came out, was because of the lack of transparency.
Right.
Well, yeah, and not to push it, because I mean, Z is like Nick. You need to just forget about Populous and stop hammering these guys.
You're Cowboy, dude. You're Cowboy, man. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Cowboy needs to stop galloping on these guys. I actually, like I said, I talked to the CTO this morning, asked him some very technical questions, and he kind of he wouldn't answer it directly. He sort of brushed it aside, and pretty much that's their MO over there at Populous. Yeah. They don't want to answer anything. They'll give you a flim-flam fake answer that doesn't do anything. And I actually had to say to him, I got a little harsh on him, like, you guys, there's no transparency with you guys. And, at this point, we feel like we've lost trust in everything. You say that you've opened up all your repos for everybody to see the coding, and yet you're still working with private repos. You know what I mean? So, are you guys, and I asked him some technical questions I got from a coder. So long story short, I mean, in Cliff, we trust at this point. That's kind of where I'm leaving it.
Yeah.
Correct. Exactly.
And there's always PayPal.
There's PayPal. There's Hextra. There's a few of them out there.
Yeah. For people who don't understand, one of the things is so exciting about Populous that had me very excited, is that not only is there a prediction from Cliff of a high coin value in the near future, high token value. But if that token is valuable, you could make 3 to 7% a month off of your tokens by using their platform, their factoring platform. And I mean, correct. I mean, now you're really, it's one thing to say, oh, this token may go up in value and I could liquidate it for some Bitcoin or cash in the future. It's another thing to say, wow, I could have a potentially $1 million investment here and then profit off of it like no bank would ever let me do. That's very exciting. And so you can see where the emotion comes with Populous. Cliff has talked in his data about Populous, like you talk about the analogy he made in his data was, you talk about a trust fund baby. There will be Populous babies, kids whose parents just made so much money off of Populous that they never have to worry about money again. So, I mean, you're talking about talk about emotional information. You hear that and you say, sign me up. Let's see how many of these things I can get before it goes to the moon. And then you start to hear these reports that can be very unnerving. So
yeah, correct.
Right, well, I appreciate you guys' thoughts on that. That's helpful, and I think illustrates really well how a lot of people are feeling. You want to say Cliff said it's going to the moon, but then you say, there's a lot of things that are going to the moon. And
correct. And Cliff always says, take his stuff with a grain of salt. His stuff isn't it. It's not financial advice. He's not always correct. He admits it.
Sure.
And which is why we would just like to see a little bit more clarity.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're not ruling it out, but certainly a time to be a little cautious. Yeah.
Correct.
Not that that's financial advice.
No.
Or let's see. I think we exhausted my small list. Anything else anybody wants to throw out?
Well, I think the general strategy that we've developed is when you are expecting a large market movement either way in Bitcoin, what I do is historically due to Bitcoin dominance, which is I think at 34% right now. And for the new viewers, what Bitcoin dominance means is how many of all of the cryptos, what percentage of all cryptos are Bitcoin. Now, because Bitcoin is sort of the medium by which you buy all of the alts, there's Ethereum and other ones. Bitcoin's the big boy with the network effect, like we talked about earlier. Whenever you see a massive movement, if it goes up, Bitcoin goes up. People want to sell their alts to get into Bitcoin to ride it up, and then your alts kind of go down in price. And then when Bitcoin has a dip, people actually the theory is that people are selling their alts to get into Bitcoin so they can sell their Bitcoin into dollars. So either way, a big movement of Bitcoin causes a dip in alts. So what I do is I'm the spider in the web holding Bitcoin, waiting for one of those movements. And then when something is extremely on sale, I snap it up. And that's like that's one of the most important things that I think I've learned in this game.
Yeah, and it is if you've been in cryptos for any amount of time, you definitely start to see that. You see, oh, Bitcoin's way up today. Oh, everything else I have is way down, and vice versa. You start to notice that pattern pretty strongly. At a time like this where everything's a little bit sideways, it's not as clear. But yeah, I've seen in those when you have those huge Bitcoin moves, it could really shake up the alts.
Oh, and one more thing, Frank. As we spoke about last session, you asked me about Litecoin. Litecoin's still looking fantastic. It's just the flag is just continuing over, and the long-term position of Litecoin looks very, very healthy.
Nice candle today, right?
Nice little candle today. Yeah. And if you look at the 3 hour, you look at the RSI. The RSI is just as Cowboy was speaking earlier. It is at the sort of at the bottom of it, signaling an oversold position of it. Plus, it's ramping up. It's becoming bullish. There's a very, very large, thick cloud, which is a great sign. Yeah, and it's looking very, very healthy.
Yeah, I wish some of these exchanges would let you use Litecoin as your primary trading pair.
It's gonna happen. There are actually a few exchanges that do have very, very minor pairings for Litecoin, but it's starting to build. People are
because I've really drank the Kool-Aid on Litecoin.
You've been taking a bit too much.
It's hard for me. It's hard for me. Like in our Watches trade room. I think it was Yuzi posted like a Litecoin to Bitcoin trade, and I was like, why would I do that? And I know that's not logical. I'm just saying, like, I was like, man, I wish I could just trade everything back and forth into Litecoin to build up that pile. So
we probably, while we're talking about it, we should take a look at the chart. So what I'm seeing looks kind of like I think it's technically referred to as a descending triangle, where you have a flat bottom if you're not going by wicks. If you're going by wicks, it might be slightly more symmetrical, which is a good sign. But if you're not going by wicks, I know Z kind of likes to be more conservative. If I have that right,
which is more
no,
conservative?
I do.
Which is more conservative, wicks or no wicks?
Not wicks.
No wicks.
So cowboy over here, he likes to act like a cowboy, and he likes to take it from the wicks, which is essentially that skinny little line. I personally am a more conservative trader. I like to take it strict from the candle.
Candle itself, okay.
Yeah, I don't even know what we're talking about right now, but
I've heard in crypto that you can go by the candle without the wick, and that it works more better.
It works on a more consistent fashion. Although I've done a lot of swing trading on Litecoin specifically using wicks, where I was doing live callouts, and it worked out beautifully.
Okay.
So I mean, it's all about how cowboy you want to be.
Correct.
Now, a cowboy, real quick, because I'm actually personally running out of time here. What were you going to say about the bottom of your triangle there? I'm very
okay, yeah. The two quick things to talk about it. If this really is, like I said, I want to make sure this is correct. I think descending triangle. I hope the TA guys' ears aren't bleeding right now. But when you have a flat bottom here, you're not looking at a symmetrical triangle. It's not as solid of an indicator of bullishness. If it's bouncing off this support down here, if it does break, it can easily break down. Right now, though, it does appear to have broken upward, which is, we might see a rise as we're speaking. And I also have a little bit. Yeah, all in. Well, I have a fair amount of Litecoin myself. I bought right about here. But you have this descending, negative polar, if I don't call that. So I don't know. I mean, I'm in Litecoin. I think it's a great coin. It's a solid coin. And right here on the bottom, the stochastic RSI is about to hit that 50% mark. So we actually might be able to make some money today.
Cool. Very cool.
Good deal, gents. All right, guys. I can't believe time flies when you're having fun. We're at the end of the show. Why don't you just plug how people can get involved, where they got to do, and what the procedure is to get them involved with probably the most important opportunity they will ever have in their entire lifetime.
You're not kidding.
And I must say, just listening in the background and letting you guys just talk, and I'm just sitting here and just listening to all three of y'all. I will have to say this is the best damn crypto show I've ever heard on the internet. Period. It is freaking awesome. Good job, guys.
Nice.
Agreed.
Amen.
That's a big compliment from the Ape. Thanks.
It's the first time ever that you're getting various different aspects of the whole financial institute. I think, and that's why I love it so much. You've got guys like me who just focus on cryptos, but then you've got you guys, V and Frank. You guys know about the actual financial institute, the standard financial, like whole stock market and sector and so forth. And then Nick, Cowboy, who knows both, which is fantastic.
Well, no, that you got my role wrong. My role is to be the student here. I'm the one going, what about this?
Well, I don't know. You're a student, man. The more I talk to you, the more I think you're like pretending to be a student, like one of those poker sharks,
I don't know.
No, I'm really stupid. I can tell people where to go. I can tell people where to go, and then I got calls to make, so I gotta do this quick. But
go for it.
We've got forgetting our own URL, thecryptoschool.io. And again, it's not complicated, but I would say take a minute and figure out what you got there. We've got our school where we have videos on everything from how to buy Bitcoin for the total noob, how to use wallets, how to use my Ether wallet, stuff like that. And now we're adding some next level stuff where we're talking about trading, and Crypto Z and Crypto Cowboy are going to be in on that, and I'm so excited about it. And then we have that's a one-time fee, $2.99. You'll be $2.97, and you're in. But we also have our new chat room, Watch Us Trade with Crypto Cowboy and Crypto Z, and that's a subscription service. It's starting for very limited time at $149.97. So check both of those out. I'd recommend both of those in addition to our really, really inexpensive support Slack, which is on there as well. But those are the two big ticket products on there, and I think both of them are awesome, and we're really appreciative for all the people who joined over the weekend. Man, people were just flooding in, and we're excited to see them. So we're off to a great start.
Absolutely great start. I'm telling you right now, guys, get involved in the Training Academy because every so often I pop in there. These guys are always there all the time. They're answering your questions.
Yeah, these guys are awesome.
They're freaking phenomenal. The amount of attention and detail you're going to get from Crypto Z and Crypto Cowboy, you're going to be blown to smithereens. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to be 10xing that monthly payment instantaneously. All right, you're going to be shocked. You're going to be like, how come this is not $500 or $1,000 a month? I'm telling you, it's well worth your time. It's well worth your effort. Go to thecryptoschool.io. And with that being said, gentlemen, thank you all. And we'll be back on Friday. And we'll be back again recapping the entire week. So, folks, if you get a chance again, go back and listen to the show. Awesome times. With that being said, enjoy the rest of your days. And we're over and we are out.
Take care, guys.
Care.
Yeah, take it.